In Ouagadougou, the morning air hung thick with the dry season's heat, pressing down on the city like a heavy hand. Inside the presidential palace, a simple building that stood firm against the weight of history, Captain Ibrahim Traoré sat at his desk, his eyes fixed on a letter that had arrived hours earlier. The envelope bore no official stamp, only a gold seal with Nigeria's eagle and horses, delivered not through diplomats, but by a lone military courier who vanished into the dawn. The silence in the room felt alive, as if the walls themselves held their breath. Traoré broke the seal and unfolded the note. The handwriting was careful, each word chosen with precision. My brother in African unity, it began, the time for our continent to stand as one is now. Come to Abuja. No cameras, no ceremonies, just truth. Signed, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President of Nigeria. The invitation seemed warm, almost humble, but Traoré's instincts stirred. He had seen such letters before, from leaders who spoke of unity while clutching foreign promises in their pockets. The timing gnawed at him. Only days ago, whispers had spread through Burkina Faso's intelligence circles of a new ECOWAS plan, one that would pressure Mali, Niger, Guinea, and Burkina Faso to return to the bloc or face crippling trade restrictions. Tinubu had dismissed the rumors in a public speech, calling them baseless. Yet here was this letter, sudden and secretive. Traoré turned the paper over. In the bottom corner, barely visible, was a faint mark, 2 dots above a curved line. It was no accident. Someone in Abuja had left it there, a signal meant to be seen by eyes trained to notice. A warning. His mind raced. Was this an olive branch or a snare? He leaned back, the chair creaking under his weight. Nigeria held sway in West Africa, its wealth and influence unmatched, but Burkina Faso under Traoré had carved its own path, rejecting old alliances and foreign bases. To Tinubu, that defiance might be a threat, or worse, a symbol. He called for his closest aides, Lieutenant Awa Ouedraogo and Major Issouf Compere, both sharp-minded and loyal to the core. They stood before him as he handed them the letter. "Read it," he said. "Tell me what you see." Ouedraogo's brow furrowed as she studied the words. "It feels too perfect," she said. "Like a script." Compere pointed to the ink mark. "This is deliberate," he said. "Someone on Tinubu's side is not with him." Traoré nodded. "Prepare a plane," he said. "We leave for Abuja in 2 days. But we go prepared." The decision was made. Traoré would walk into the meeting, not as a guest, but as a player in a game where trust was a luxury. His aides began their work, equipping briefcases with hidden devices, not weapons, but tools to record and transmit. If Tinubu planned to corner him, Traoré would ensure the world heard every word. The air in Ouagadougou grew heavier still, as if the city itself sensed the storm gathering on the horizon. 2 days later, a Burkina Faso state plane touched down in Abuja under a sky heavy with clouds. Captain Ibrahim Traoré stepped onto the tarmac, flanked by Lieutenant Awa Ouedraogo and Major Issouf Compere. No banners greeted them. No reporters crowded the runway. Only a black sedan with tinted windows and a single Nigerian aide who offered a curt nod. "Welcome, President Traoré," the aide said. "The president awaits you." The words were polite, but the absence of protocol felt deliberate, like a stage set for something unspoken. The drive to Aso Rock, Nigeria's seat of power, passed in silence. Traoré's aides kept their briefcases close, each lined with encrypted recording devices, small enough to evade detection, but powerful enough to capture every sound. Traoré's mind was steady, his pulse calm. He had faced ambushes before, not with bullets, but with words, and he knew the game. Tinubu's invitation was no gesture of brotherhood. It was a move, and Traoré intended to counter it. They arrived at Aso Rock's West Wing, a place known as the nerve center for Nigeria's most sensitive affairs. The aide led them through a maze of corridors to a door that opened into a windowless room. The air inside was cool, the walls bare except for a polished mahogany table and a single digital tablet at its center. The aide gestured for Traoré to enter, then closed the door behind him. Ouedraogo and Compere were asked to wait outside. Traoré gave them a glance, a signal to activate their devices. They understood. He sat alone, the silence pressing against his ears. 10 minutes passed, then 15. The delay was no accident, a tactic to unsettle him. Traoré remained still, his hands folded, his eyes fixed on the tablet. Finally, the door opened, and Bola Ahmed Tinubu walked in, alone. His smile was wide, but it stopped short of his eyes. "Captain," he said, "thank you for coming." He extended a hand. Traoré looked at it, then met Tinubu's gaze and nodded once, keeping his hands at his sides. Tinubu's smile tightened, but he sat across the table without comment. "Before we talk," Tinubu said, "let me share something." He tapped the tablet, and its screen glowed. Documents appeared, labeled as classified ECOWAS proposals. Maps followed, showing trade routes, military outposts, and shaded areas marked as zones of Russian influence in Mali and Niger. "This is our reality," Tinubu said. "Europe watches us, America hesitates, Russia advances. Division weakens us all. You, Captain, are a voice others follow. We need you with us." Traoré listened, his face unreadable. Tinubu's voice grew sharper. "Your stance, your rejection of ECOWAS, it inspires rebellion. Symbols like you must align or be contained." He slid the tablet toward Traoré. On it was a draft agreement, its terms clear. Burkina Faso would rejoin ECOWAS, share intelligence, denounce foreign mercenaries, and in return, Nigeria would fund infrastructure projects. "Sign this," Tinubu said, "and we build a stronger Africa together." Traoré's eyes flicked to the tablet, then back to Tinubu. "And if I refuse?" he asked, his voice low. Tinubu leaned forward. "Then you risk isolation, sanctions, history judging you as the man who fractured our unity." He paused, then nodded toward the door. It opened, and two officials entered, placing a briefcase on the table. Inside, Tinubu said, is a letter from Britain, pledging support for your government if you sign. "This is not pressure, Captain. This is opportunity." Traoré's jaw tightened. "This is not unity," he said. "This is control wrapped in promises." Tinubu's smile returned, thinner now. "Sometimes control is progress," he said. The room grew quieter, the air thick with the weight of what came next. The room in Aso Rock held its breath as Captain Ibrahim Traoré stared at the tablet, its screen glowing with Tinubu's offer. The agreement promised aid, stability, and a seat at the ECOWAS table, but its price was clear: Burkina Faso's independence, its defiance, its soul. Traoré's voice cut through the silence. "You speak of unity," he said, "but this is a leash, not a handshake." Bola Ahmed Tinubu's eyes narrowed, his fingers tapping the table once, twice. He opened his mouth to reply, but Traoré was not finished. "Let me offer something," Traoré said. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small, flat device, no larger than a coin, its surface smooth except for a single blinking light. He placed it on the table, and the air shifted. Tinubu frowned. "What is this?" he asked. Traoré's lips curved, not quite a smile. "Freedom," he said. He pressed the device, and a faint hum filled the room. The tablet's screen flickered, then went dark. Tinubu's eyes darted to the ceiling, where hidden cameras no doubt watched. They too had stopped, their feeds severed by the signal jammer, now pulsing quietly. Tinubu's voice hardened. "You think you can play games here?" Traoré leaned forward, his gaze steady. "No games," he said. "Only truth." He reached into his briefcase and produced a second device, this one a small tablet of his own. He tapped it, and a transcript appeared, every word of their conversation, typed in real time. "From the moment I landed," Traoré said, "my team has recorded everything. Your invitation, your offer, your briefcase. Even the letter from Britain. It is all here." Tinubu's face froze, his hands gripping the table's edge. "Impossible," he said. "My security is airtight." Traoré's voice remained calm. "Your aide, the one who delivered your letter in Ouagadougou, he answers to me now. 70 hours ago, he chose loyalty to Africa over loyalty to you." Tinubu stood, his chair scraping the floor. "You would not dare release this," he said. "It would ruin you as much as me." Traoré rose to meet him, eye to eye. "I do not need to release it," he said. "I only need you to know I can." Without another word, Traoré turned and walked to the door. Tinubu called after him. "This is not over, Captain." Traoré did not look back. He stepped into the corridor, where Lieutenant Awa Ouedraogo and Major Issouf Compare waited, their faces taut but composed. "Clear," Ouedraogo whispered, confirming their devices had gone undetected. "Upload it," Traoré said. "Secure channels, 3 copies, 3 countries, before midnight." They nodded, and moved as one toward the waiting sedan. The convoy rolled through Abuja's quiet streets. No sirens, no escort, just the hum of tires on asphalt. Traoré sat in the back, his mind already mapping the fallout. He had walked into Tinubu's trap and turned it inside out, not with threats, but with evidence, not with noise, but with silence. Back at Aso Rock, Tinubu's aides were likely scrambling, their plans unraveling. The recording, now safe in encrypted servers, was a weapon Traoré held but did not need to fire. Its existence was enough. As the plane lifted off from Abuja, Traoré looked out at the city below. The clouds had parted, revealing a moon that cast pale light across the land. He thought of the ink mark on Tinubu's letter, the warning from an unknown ally. Someone in Nigeria's ranks had seen the truth and chosen to act. That choice, small as it seemed, had shifted the game. Traoré closed his eyes, not in rest, but in focus. The real battle was only beginning, and it would not be fought in rooms like Aso Rock. It would be fought in the hearts of a continent. By the time Captain Ibrahim Traoré's plane landed in Ouagadougou, the recording was already in motion, its encrypted file sent to servers in Mali, Ghana, and Senegal. Traoré gave no orders to release it. He knew the truth had a way of finding its own path, especially when the ground was ready to burn. In Abuja, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu returned to his office, his face a mask of control, but his aides saw the tension in his clenched fists. They argued in hushed tones, unaware that one among them, a junior communications officer named Chidi Okoye, had overheard enough to act. Okoye had no ties to Traoré, no grand ideals of rebellion. He was a civil servant, loyal to Nigeria but troubled by what he had seen in Aso Rock's corridors. The briefcase from Britain, the whispered mentions of sanctions, the pressure on a leader who refused to bend, it all felt wrong. That night, Okoye accessed a secure terminal, copied a fragment of the meeting's audio, and sent it to a contact in Lagos, a journalist known for her courage. He attached a single line, "Let Africa judge." By morning, the audio was on a private Telegram channel, shared among activists and insiders. Within hours, it reached X, posted by an anonymous account with the caption, "Tinubu's trap exposed. Traoré stands tall." The clip was short, just 30 seconds, but its impact was seismic. Tinubu's voice, clear and measured, offered the deal: rejoin ECOWAS, reject Russia, accept our aid. Traoré's reply followed, calm and cutting. This is not unity. This is control wrapped in promises. The audio ended abruptly, leaving listeners hungry for more. Across Nigeria, phones buzzed with notifications. In Lagos, market traders paused to listen, their radios crackling with the clip. In Kano, students gathered in dorms, replaying the words. The hashtag #TroranBroken began to trend. In Ouagadougou, the reaction was electric. Crowds spilled into the streets, not in anger, but in pride. They chanted Traoré's name, their voices rising like a tide. A local musician recorded a song that same day, its refrain echoing Traoré's words. No leash, no control, only truth. The song spread faster than the audio itself, shared on WhatsApp, and played in taxis. Burkina Faso's people, long weary of foreign pressures, saw their leader not as a soldier, but as a shield, standing firm where others had knelt. The twist came not from Traoré, but from Nigeria itself. Chidi Okoye, the officer who leaked the audio, did not stop there. He sent a second file, this one a document, to the same journalist. It was a draft memo from Tinubu's office, detailing a plan to isolate Burkina Faso economically if Traoré refused the deal. The memo mentioned British and American consultants, their names redacted but their roles clear, advisors pushing ECOWAS to tighten its grip on defiant nations. When the journalist published the memo online, Nigeria erupted. Protests broke out in Abuja, not against Traoré but against Tinubu. Students at the University of Ibadan marched, holding signs that read, "Nigeria for Africa, not for London." Tinubu's government scrambled to respond. A spokesperson called the memo forged, the audio manipulated, but the denials only fueled the fire. In Ghana, newspapers ran editorials praising Traoré's restraint, noting he had not leaked the recording himself. In Kenya, a radio host dissected the audio, calling it a lesson in dignity over power. Even in South Africa, Where ECOWAS matters were distant, activists held forums, streaming the clip and debating its meaning. The continent was not just reacting, it was rethinking. Traoré had exposed not just a trap, but a system, one where African unity was often a mask for control. Back in Ouagadougou, Traoré remained silent. He issued no statements, gave no interviews. Instead, he met quietly with his advisors, Lieutenant Awa Ouedraogo and Major Issouf Compere, to plan Burkina Faso's next steps. The leaked memo had shifted the game. ECOWAS postponed its next summit, citing logistical issues, but insiders knew the truth. Tinubu's influence was shaken. France, mentioned in the memo as a silent partner, issued a vague statement about supporting African sovereignty, a retreat from its usual demands. The final blow came a week later. Okoye, now in hiding, released a full transcript of the Aso Rock meeting through a Senegalese news outlet. The line that echoed loudest was Traoré's parting shot. "I only need you to know I can." Africa heard it not as a threat, but as a promise, a vow that power could be met with principle. Tinubu's advisors resigned in waves, and Nigeria's Senate called an emergency session. The trap had not just failed, it had birthed a reckoning. In the weeks that followed, Africa carried the weight of Captain Ibrahim Traoré's silence. The leaked audio and memo, sparked by Chidi Okoye's defiance, had reshaped the continent's conversation. From Dakar to Nairobi, people spoke not of deals or sanctions, but of dignity, of a leader who walked into a trap and emerged not with a signature, but with truth. In Ouagadougou, the streets pulsed with a quiet pride. No grand rallies marked Traoré's return, no speeches filled the airwaves. Instead, markets buzzed with stories, and children in schoolyards reenacted the Aso Rock meeting. One playing Traoré, standing tall, another mimicking Tinubu, frozen in defeat. Traoré's refusal to speak publicly was no accident. He knew the power of letting the continent fill the silence. In Nigeria, the fallout deepened. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu faced a fractured inner circle. 3 senior aides stepped down, their resignations cloaked in vague excuses about personal matters. A leaked email, traced to Nigeria's Foreign Affairs Ministry, revealed panic. ECOWAS unity was crumbling, and Tinubu's push for sanctions had lost support. Ghana and Senegal, once reliable allies, sent private messages to Traoré, not as a rebel, but as a partner. Even the African Union, cautious since Burkina Faso's coup, invited Traoré to a closed-door meeting in Addis Ababa, a gesture unthinkable months before. The twist of Chidi Okoye's actions continued to ripple. The junior officer, now in Ghana under a false name, became a symbol of his own. Nigerian activists hailed him as a whistleblower, though he shunned the spotlight. His leaked memo, exposing Britain's hand in Tinubu's plan, forced London to issue a rare statement denying involvement in ECOWAS affairs. The denial fooled no one. In Lagos, a street artist painted a mural, not of Traoré but of Okoye, a faceless figure holding a pen that bled truth. The image went viral on X, shared with captions calling for accountability, not just in Nigeria, but across Africa. Traoré, back in Ouagadougou, met with a single journalist, a Burkinabe woman known for her sharp questions. They sat in a modest office, no flags or guards, just 2 voices seeking clarity. "Why did you stay silent?" she asked. "Why let others speak for you?" Traoré sipped his tea, his eyes steady. "If I had spoken first," he said, "they would have twisted my words, called it propaganda." Silence forced them to face their own lies. The journalist pressed further. "And the recording? Did you plan its leak?" Traoré shook his head. "I only ensured it existed," he said. "Someone else chose to set it free." The interview spread across the continent, its final line quoted in every language. "Truth does not need a megaphone. It needs only a spark." The continent listened. In Accra, university students held debates, analyzing Traoré's strategy. In Johannesburg, a podcast series titled The Silent Stand gained millions of downloads, dissecting the Aso Rock meeting. In Bamako, Mali's leaders, allies of Traoré, sent a public letter to ECOWAS, demanding reform. The bloc, weakened by Nigeria's misstep, agreed to pause its sanctions talk, a victory Traoré never claimed aloud. France, sensing the shift, scaled back its military presence in West Africa, a move analysts tied to the leaked memo's fallout. Months later, Traoré remained a leader, not of speeches, but of moments. He had entered Tinubu's trap with no army, no threats, only a device and a conviction. He left with Africa's gaze, not because he shouted, but because he refused to kneel. The continent remembered not the audio, not the memo, but the man who sat across from power and chose to walk away. In that choice, Africa found its own voice, not in noise but in a silence so loud it echoed from Ouagadougou to the world.